I thought we were going to be friends now, and I said, so hey, do you want to hang out right now? And he goes, no, I got to work. And I was like, all right, do you want me to leave? And he goes, yeah, get the hell out of here. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And then I got out of the room, and that was it.
Wow. But you're doing more stuff for Family Guy, though, too, aren't you?
Yeah, I didn't hear from them for like another 6 months, and then out of the blue, I get a phone call saying, "Hey, can you do this voice?"
Oh, wow.
And then, "Hey, can you do this voice?" And every time they called, I lied and said, "Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite voices." You know, they'd say, "Hey, can you do like Tom Arnold?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I love doing Tom Arnold. It's like one of my favorite voices." Well, when do you need me to do Tom Arnold by? And they'd say, just can you record something and send to us by next Friday? And I go, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then I would go and rent a bunch of Tom Arnold movies and listen to them and then call, and then just get any kind of line of Tom Arnold just saying, hey, I love fat women and cocaine. And then I'd send it to them and they'd say, oh, yeah, that's it, you're the guy.
Wow. It must take a lot of talent to be able to do a voice impression of somebody, because I used to do radio, like I was telling you before, and I don't think I mean, I've tried to do voice impressions and stuff, but I don't know. I think you have to have a certain niche or something to do that.
I've always loved hearing people who do impressions. Like, it's my favorite thing to listen to is when someone can do a good impression of somebody. It's like, oh man, I just want to hear it over and over again. And I always had an ability to do voices because I grew up in a family that is completely deaf.
Uh-huh.
Everyone in it sounds like a joke, but it's not. Everyone in my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, are all completely deaf. So growing up in that family, I couldn't learn how to speak from my own family. I learned how to speak by copying all the voices I heard on TV. So I've always been able to mimic any kind of voice that I hear, which is hard to explain to stand-up comedians. Like I had Tracy Morgan come up to me in a comedy club a few months ago, and he was like, so Craig, your family's like retarded, right? And I was like, no, not retarded. They're deaf. Okay, they're deaf. Mm-hmm, they're deaf. So they wear like football helmets and shit. And I was like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, it's hard to explain to comedians what it all comes down to.
Oh, sure, but I mean, it's so cool to know that you can master the voice. And when you were on radio, did you do a lot of impressions to kind of help your radio career, or was it a different time for you?
Well, that's actually in reverse. I was always able to do impressions, so as a result, radio people loved having me on their shows, and still do. Like every week, I'm on the road. Usually 2 or 3 weeks out of every month I'm on the road, and I do a ton of radio shows. It's easy to get on a radio show when you can do voices, because radio people, it makes their job easier. You can just come in as a bunch of different celebrities and just say awful things. So.
Yeah, I remember there's some people also on YouTube that you see some of these people that try to do voice impressions that are just regular random people, and it's very, very cool how even just a random regular person who you wouldn't expect to do a voice can actually master it pretty well.
Yeah, it's something I love to hear when someone can do it. I met a guy once at an audition for or maybe we were doing a commercial. It was either an audition for a radio commercial, or I was actually taping a radio commercial. I can't remember. Maybe it was a cartoon. You know what? I think it was a cartoon. I was going into work on a cartoon in Los Angeles, and it was like 10 years ago. A cartoon that I ended up working on with Mark Hamill, with Luke Skywalker, which I was really stoked about. And another guy that was in that recording session was doing a Tom Hanks impression. That Tom Hanks impression was like, wow! I just asked him to do it over and over and over again. It's just fun to hear people who can. I don't know. I may go through the same thing. Like friends of mine will just say, "Dude, do Gene Simmons doing this," and then I'll do it for them. And it's like, and I get it. It's fun. And
I've only the one voice that kind of got me excited about you in the first place was your Sam Kinison, because I told you too that I did the interview with Bill Kinison about a month and a half ago, around the 21st anniversary of Sam's death, and when I found out that there's a guy that could do an impression of Sam Kinison, I was like, holy shit! This is one of the reasons why I had you on.
Yeah, can you believe that it's been 21 years, man? It's sad.
Yeah, it's crazy. All because of a drunk driver,
Yeah, it's ironic that he was getting his life together and he got hit by a drunk driver. But yeah, I've always loved Sam, and and he had such a unique point of view. And there's so many, like, no one has, you know, had that point of view. Whenever people come up to me and talk about Sam and compare him to other comedians, I would always say, no, because he came out at the same time as Dice, so people would say, yeah, it's Sam and Dice. And I'd say, no, they're two totally different comedians. And the thing about Sam was he had such a, almost like a paranoia about him that was so funny. And one of the best examples of it is he had this piece that he used to do on stage about Nostradamus that was never released. And a friend of his told me about it. I think it might have been Carl LeBeau who told me about it. But he did this thing about Nostradamus on stage where he said, "Hey, folks, I do a lot of reading, and I find this guy that's really fascinating, Nostradamus. I don't know if you know anything about Nostradamus, but here's a guy who, during his time, was able to predict major world events. I was able to predict major world wars, and he even predicted the rise of Hitler. He almost fucking named the guy. He almost named Hitler. And if you know anything about Nostradamus, he actually said in his writings that great Hister will rise from the east and cause more bloodshed than anybody before him. And a lot of people say, like, wow, the area of the world that he said that the person was going to come out of became modern-day Germany. And then, and he said Hister, you know, and that was, you know, it was Hitler. He was trying to say Hitler. And Kinnison did this thing where he said, and I'm reading this, and it's very fascinating. And then all of a sudden it hit me, it dawned on me, wait a second. Wait a second. What if Hister hasn't shown up yet? Jesus Christ, what if this is the guy that's going to make Hitler look like a pussy? Oh! And that was brilliant. Genius, you know?
Wow. No, that almost made it seem like Sam Kinison was just right here, just with us, just for that moment. Man, that's, wow.
Well, he is. He's actually listening down now. I actually, I'm here in the afterlife. I get just a couple of things. I get to listen to this show, and I get to watch the OJ verdict in perpetuity for 24 hours a day on TV.
Oh, that's great. So before we close this interview, because you said you got to run pretty soon, is there anything that you would like to promote at all?
You know, just come out to my Facebook page and look at all the